Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Given the current political and social climate, the polarization we see today, I felt inspired to do a video on the love your neighbor as yourself and the love your enemy passages in the Bible, both the Hebrew Bible and the Christian New Testament. They are often touted as, especially the love your enemy one, as radical new moral teachings by Jesus. You'll find this I found this Christian website earlier today where they say when Jesus said we are to love our enemies, he was creating a new standard for relationships. So something new, right? Something radical for its time. That seems to be the implication. And I think Christians would recognize that the love your neighbor as yourself, which we find here in Mark, Mark 12:31, love your neighbor as yourself, that Christians would recognize that this is Levitical law. This comes from Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. The question then becomes, even discussed amongst Hebrews and then later, as they call themselves, Jews, who is your neighbor, right? But it is there. It is there in Leviticus. But then in the New Testament, we get passages like in Matthew. Here we have Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 and 44, where the author of Matthew puts in the mouth of Jesus pronouncements like, "You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." So something very different from the love your neighbor passage in the Levitical law. Now, is this new? Is this a radical new idea? Would the public who was living in and around Jerusalem or in and around the Middle East, in places like the Babylonian Empire or the Egyptian Empire, would they have thought, wow, this is radical, I've never heard this before, love your enemy, what is he talking about? I would argue no. And for that, we're going to go to something called the Counsels of Wisdom. Now, the Counsels of Wisdom is, as it says here on the Wikipedia page, a piece of Babylonian wisdom literature. It is written in Akkadian, and it has certain advice, moral wisdom to the people. The date of its authorship is a bit unclear. It's either from the first dynasty, which would be, and let me just peek at the exact dates, it would be, the first dynasty is 1894 to 1595, or it's from the Kassite period, which would be 1531 to 1155. So either of those two periods, either the first dynasty or the Kassite period. And in the Counsels of Wisdom, you find the following passage, and I take this from, I have the book here, a physical copy. So this is the book, The Ancient Near East, and it has the subtitle, An Anthology of Texts and Pictures, edited by James B. Pritchard. So these are usually stone tablets that they found. That's why you see a number of lines damaged in the text, where the stone tablet has been broken off somehow. So in this text, in this Counsels of Wisdom, you find the passage Do not return evil to your adversary. Requite with kindness the one who does evil to you. Maintain justice for your enemy. Be friendly to your enemy. And then, as I said, it's a bit damaged, but then it goes on to say, give food to eat, beer to drink, grant what is requested, provide for and treat with honor. At this one's God takes pleasure. And then it names the god. It is pleasing to Shamash, who will repay him with favor. Do good things, be kind all your days. And then, as you would have in the Hebrew Bible or even in the New Testament, when Jesus instructs slaves to obey their masters, you get, to our eyes, horrendous stuff like, do not honor a slave girl in your house. She should not rule your bedroom like a wife. But yeah, to our modern eyes, you get quite modern-looking teachings next to very ancient and barbaric teachings. But I would say that this is super similar to what we find in the New Testament. And this is at least 1,000 years before. So this message also permeates society, but just like we have this absolute polarization today where messages like maintain justice for your enemy and be friendly to your enemy seem so far away, like in the current climate, but that part of the society is still there. There are still people out there who think this. And in that time, it must have been similar, that you have a pendulum where people like the caricatures of the Pharisees, they live for the law and they forget about the people. But then there's a pendulum swing the other way where, no, we have to be kind to everyone. And the idea of the Samaritan taking care of a Jew, like enemies taking care of each other. So you get these pendulum swings throughout history, and Jesus is just one of them. And he brings back a wisdom, or let's say the authors of the New Testament put this in his mouth, this wisdom of loving your neighbor and loving your enemy and not getting bogged down in the letter of the law, but following the spirit of the law, I guess. But even Babylonians knew that 1,000 years before the New Testament was ever penned down. What do you think? For Christians, does this recontextualize what Jesus said in the New Testament? Does this make it less radical, less original? Or do you just think, well, yeah, this confirms what I've been thinking all along? Let me know in the comments. I look forward to reading it. Bye.